When it appeared that Jim Jones's situation could not possibly get any worse, they shocked everyone by filing criminal charges against Camron for disclosing the now famous private video. It wasn't a rumor or blog gossip, and nobody, not even Camron himself, expected it to get this bad, but Jim had reached his breaking point. For years, Jim had stayed firm against the stories of the backstabbing and the murmurs that tormented him backstage, but this time he decided to strike back because the treachery was too deep and the humiliation was too raw. Official court records were shockingly released to the public. The sound of quiet was practically audible. Emergency streams were started by frantic podcasters and breaking news sites. When Jim Jones formally filed criminal charges against Camron over the leaked private film, the streets were alive with excitement like never before. It was now a full-fledged legal battle with actual repercussions. It was no longer just beef or subliminals placed over beats. You could feel the ground tremble as the internet surged in a matter of hours. The cornerstone of hip-hop devotion rocked as friendships and strained. Ties broke, and as everyone prepared for the impact, another betrayal struck with greater force than anybody could have predicted. Chrissy Lamen, Jim's enduring monarch. The woman who fought alongside him wept with him, bled for him, and did not stand by his side. Instead, Chrissy shared a single, terrifying line on Instagram. Sometimes you realize the villain was standing right next to you the entire time. But there were no tags, no explanations, and no apologies. But the world knew exactly who she meant. The rumors increased, the streets caught fire, the fans went crazy, and Jim's fans dug deeper. Old clips revealed subtle smiles and lingering touches between Chrissy and Camron, as well as lingering touches at after-parties and inside jokes, captured on camera that once seemed harmless but now screamed betrayal. Jim must have felt his world fall apart brick by brick, memory by memory, and he stood frozen in heartbreak. Was Chrissy blaming Jim? Was she siding with Camron? Or worse, had she been playing a double game all along? Jim vanished. Jim isn't just hurt, he's shattered, an insider whispered, describing Jim as a ghost, a guy walking but not really alive. There were no tweets, club appearances, or statements. Just a deafening quiet that spoke louder than words could. For days, there was nothing but stillness until Jim broke it with a single, painful tweet. Losing Camron was betrayal enough, but losing Chrissy was soul death. You never lose real ones. You lose phony ones that claim to be real, honest, and unfiltered. The tweet sparked the internet once more, and Camron played his part flawlessly, making fun of Untouchable with a picture of himself smiling broadly with the comment, "Sometimes silence screams the loudest," an expert demonstration of cold-blooded chess moves. Fans barely had time to gather themselves before the next shocking revelation. Pictures of Chrissy and Camron together having a private dinner at a fancy restaurant without an entourage or other distractions were leaked. Once those pictures appeared online, there was no longer any room for speculation. Rather, it was proof. Jim Jones, Dipper's fighter from Harlem, the king who had shaped an era, was standing completely alone after, being deceived by both love and fraternity. Jim had a good case according to legal experts who considered his betrayal by blood. However, others cautioned that although releasing a private video could result in severe jail time, hefty fines, and even death, Camron has money, lawyers, and now the allegiance of someone Jim believed he could always rely on. In the meantime, the industry started to fall apart and artists started taking sides. The hip-hop world wasn't just watching anymore, it was bleeding from every open wound, every broken friendship, every broken bond. Behind the scenes, things turned even darker. Sources close to Camron started whispering that was just the beginning, that Camron had more receipts, more footage, more hidden bombs waiting to be dropped, and if Jim pushed too hard, he was threatening to unleash hell. Some subtly, some loudly, and some posted loyalty quotes standing with Jim. Real ones don't fold when it gets tough. Loyalty isn't spoken, It's shown. Complete annihilation and destruction. Camron was playing to bury Jim alive, not to live, and the worst part was that Chrissy was supporting him. Chrissy was no longer quiet, neutral, or passive. Instead, she was liking dubious pictures and sharing cryptic tales, stoking the flames with each little action. Leaving behind people who never merited your loyalty is what it means to expand your Instagram following. Although there were no names or explanations, the message was louder than any diss track. It was a slow, cruel death that happened in real time for millions of people to witness. Jim was bruised, but trying to remain upright during a rare appearance. At a charity event where fans cheered and paparazzi flocked to press microphones into his face, but those who paid close attention saw that the cocky. When asked about the betrayal, Jim gave a mic drop quote that left everyone stunned. Sometimes you think you know your people, but sometimes you realize you never really did. One sentence of infinite heartbreak, but the real nightmare was only beginning. Harlem hustler, gone was the king of swagger, and what stood in his place was a man barely holding himself together. It was revealed that Camron wasn't merely protecting himself. Rather, he was launching a furious countersuit against Jim, claiming defamation and harassment. Legal experts described it as a brutal strategy that was not only about winning, but also about destroying Jim's name, reputation, and legacy. It was a war in which no one would survive, and the courtroom would not decide justice, but rather who had more dirt, more power, and a greater willingness to burn everything down in the middle of the wreckage. When the queen of Jim's universe took the torch that had set it on fire, admirers were split, and some pleaded with Chrissy Lamen to explain, how could you do this to him? Others became vicious homewreckers, traitors, and backstabbers, but Chrissy never blinked and never looked back. Her last cruel post that week stated it all. Loyalty to the wrong person is self-betrayal, with no regrets, apologies, or mercy. Thus, the battleground was set for Jim Jones versus Camron, and it wasn't just a fight between men. It was a fight between history and betrayal, loyalty and ego, and the cost wasn't just money but also pride and brotherhood, and court dates loomed like thunderclouds on the horizon. Rumors circulated about secret footage, hidden conversations, and old betrayals that were about to blow up under oath, and the industry watched breathlessly. Every fan, every hater, every artist who ever shook Jim's hand or posed for a picture, everyone waited for the next explosion, because if you thought it was messy now, you hadn't seen anything yet. The real war hadn't even started, not yet. But when it did, it wouldn't leave anyone untouched, because betrayal cuts deeper than bullets. It burns, longer than broken deals. It haunts, louder than lost fame. And sometimes it's not your enemies you have to fear. It's the ones you loved most. The ones who smiled at you, said they'd ride for you, promised you forever, only to turn their backs when you needed them most. The final battle was coming, and there would be no mercy, no forgiveness, no survivors, only broken pieces where once there was loyalty, only ashes where once there was brotherhood. And Jim, he was standing at the edge looking down into a darkness. Even he might not survive, because some betrayals you don't come back from. Stay tuned, because this story, it's far from over. In fact, it's just getting started. And if you think you've seen betrayal at its worst, if you think you know how this war ends, think again, because in the world of loyalty and betrayal, the next move is always the deadliest. Subscribe, stay tuned, because the next chapter will break everything. You thought you knew, you thought you knew.